Hey everyone, it's Live Golf Buff with Liver and Onions, and it is January 3rd, 2025, and it is the League Itself podcast. I hope everyone had a great holiday season. I did. I'm sure Liver and Onions did as well. Uh, did you though? How was your Christmas?
Uh, Christmas, New Year's, all good. We're pretty no big parties in our family or anything, so um, just stayed relatively close to home and got a few celebrations out of the way and ready to go on a new year.
Fantastic. And I
How
went
about
to
you?
Florida and played horrible golf and got sick and bleached by chlorine in the hot tub. It was a weird trip, but other than that, it was great time spending with family. But yeah, I'm excited to get back into the new year and talk about new things and what we're really excited for. We're going to keep this episode pretty light today, just because there hasn't been a ton of news since the last time we recorded. But before we do get started, we are on X. Obviously, these are our handles with our names, but check us out on Spotify as well. And eventually, we'll start branching out into more podcast entities. But in the meantime, we're on Spotify. We would really appreciate if you listened there and rated the podcast if you so choose. So, getting that out of the way, first thing, biggest news, I think, and a little bit of what you're wearing on your shirt, the Cleeks rebrand. Um, our friend T Times kind of spoiled it on X of what it's going to look like,
Did they?
and I don't know.
We that
I
they think they did. I think we aren't sure. Like we know something's coming, right? They've been teasing it, but um, my initial thought was there's got to be more to it, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was just a black and white photo of a logo, which I don't know how much better that logo is than the one you're wearing personally. But if you put a little more color to it and kind of lay out the marketing behind of why they're going to that logo, I'll be a lot more open minded. But first glance, I was like, ugh, this kind of stinks. But I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not hating on it. You texted me just pissed. Like
Yeah.
you hated it. It was the worst thing you've ever seen.
And you probably talked me off the ledge a little bit and just said wait for more because we need to know, like, is there a new color scheme? Is there going to be dimension to the logo? Is there going to be a marketing campaign that goes with it where, like, a simple logo can have a lot added to it just by how it's presented? Seeing it in a black and white version in a snip online probably wasn't the best introduction or how they intended it to be released.
Yeah.
So you talk me back, and I'll try and hold my judgment a little bit, hoping that they come through with something a little better as far as, like, oh, it's got some three-dimensional aspects to it, or it's got a little more design to it than what we first saw. But I guess I'll hold out hope.
Yeah, it's this is the third full season coming up, so it's not like the old Cleeks logo is so historic and people are so upset that they're getting rid of it. I think I'm cool with the change, but the fact that we kind of got a little edged on what it's actually going to look like kind of hurts, and I think it's never going to be perfect for anyone. It's like when those City Connect baseball jerseys come out, like every single one of them looks terrible just from the factory workers phone little shitty screenshot of it. But at least with this one, we know there's going to be a lot more to it. That was just kind of the rough draft of what it's going to look like. So
I hope so. And I think with every logo, you have to hear a story behind it. It's not just like they hired some design firm and this is what they came up with, but this is the meaning to it, right?
yeah,
The whole Cleeks brand, and I thought the traditional part of the Cleeks logo and the colors, and it kind of represented some history of the game. So to go away from this logo into something new, like, let's hear the story of it. And is there aspects of the logo that we don't see yet or our eye hasn't caught that they point out and say, well, there's more meaning to this logo than what you're seeing?
yeah, and I think also too, like like you kind of mentioned in the outline, I think if it would be great if there was an apparel sponsor behind it, or at least a known like we're partnering with these guys with this logo. They're going to help us spring the new era forward. I think that would be really cool. I don't see that as necessarily super plausible happening, but I think that would be really cool if that is like a part of the reason for the rebranding kind of
It
moving
would
forward.
be, I think that would be a really cool launching pad for them, is to say, here's the new logo, and by the way, this is the brand that we're going to be putting it on. I don't know that both of those things will be announced at once, but at some point they have to choose a brand, right? I think all other of the 12 teams, yes, all other 12 teams have
13.
a clothing brand. So
13.
no, yeah, they're the 13th, but I'm saying
Oh,
the
sorry.
other 12
Okay.
teams all have a brand that they use as their clothing sponsor. So I think the Cleeks will announce that in time too, but probably not together.
Oh, I was saying 13 as a nod to the 14th team that's coming.
Yeah.
That's not happening this year, I'm sure. But I think kind of to pivot here, and this can be a really good transition. I think it should be the league's, other than the Crushers, the league's New Year's resolution, one of them, to announce who they're working with in terms of apparel brands, because every team has all their apparel. They just don't say it. So we should start saying it. And I say that as a New Year's resolution because we came up with a couple that I think would be interesting. It's obviously the new year, it's 2025. My personal New Year's resolution is I want to start journaling. So I've journaled the first few days. So what are these the Live Golf New Year's resolutions? We both wrote a couple down. How do you want to do this? Do you want to go back and forth? Do you
Yeah,
want
give
me
me
to
one.
say mine?
What's your first one? What do you got? This is from
So
a live stand point of view.
yes,
Live
so
standing,
we're
like,
not going
hey,
to talk
this
about
is,
them journaling, just kind of the
yeah.
league. But in 2025, I want this league to have a real rivalry. So I want people to kind of go at each other's throats, like Brooks and Bryson back in the day. Like that was really intense. Obviously, it was just those two alone, and I think now they're not going to hate each other at any point. But let's get some sort of rivalry that actually has bad blood. I know Stinger and Ripper, they don't necessarily like each other, but they're also buddies off the course. They do collaborations together. I wouldn't call it necessarily a real rivalry. They just don't hate each other like that. They're just good competitors on the course, but off it, it's kumbaya. So I want to have some hate. I want to have some bad blood. I want to see some shouting, maybe like a fist or a slap, and maybe not that far, but like let's have some real beef this year. I think that would be a good thing for the league, just in terms of storylines.
I think an important component to a rivalry is it has to be those two teams down the stretch a couple of times.
Yeah,
Um, and then building on that, you have two international teams that we've seen would be a natural rival. Then I'd like to see two American teams, US based teams also. We'll see who that is. I don't know. High flyers have to get competitive before they can be a rival with anybody. You have the Bryson and Brooks thing, but they've made nice, and that's a big story in the media, right? So it's probably not going to be smash and crushers, because you're not going to turn around and say, hey, we're buddies. Ha, psych, no, we're not. And not that you can't be buddies, but give your fan base a reason to have a different team that they don't like.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. It could be anybody, and it could just come off of a random freak incident, or just an intense tournament, kind of just talking back and forth. And who knows? It could be anything. But I don't really care who it is either. I just want some battle to take place during the year.
All right, my first live resolution for 2025 is to get one of the teams sold. If I'm live, I'm saying this is the year. Let's get a deal in place. Let's stop calling it a merger. It's not a merger. Let's get a deal in place. Let's schedule some crossover events, whether that's end of 2025, early 2026. And then our business plan all along has been to sell these teams off. So let's get one team sold. And whether that's all of the remaining equity that a captain doesn't have, or that's 51%, or that's 25%. Let's get a team sold so that the dominoes can fall. Because I think when one team sells off part of their ownership and has an outside firm with some equity, I think it just opens the door to everybody. So live New Year's resolution number 1, let's get a team sold.
Okay. I agree. What's the thing that's going to get it sold? Like, you want to lose 50 pounds, you go to the gym and you eat better.
Yeah,
What's the
well,
one
I
thing
think
that
those
gets
things
it
are
sold?
happening, right? If the product is on Fox, you've got new eyes, you've got a normalcy to it that hasn't existed before. Um, it's an apparel, like being open, like you said, with an apparel deal. That could mean an equipment deal, and maybe it's an equipment manufacturer that comes alongside a team and says, okay, 25% we're willing to purchase in this team. Not saying that's going to be the case, but put those other things out there, put the brands out there that you're working with, who you're sponsored by, whose stuff you're wearing, what company you endorses you all your travel, what's your official rental car of your team. Get those things out there, and I think that just makes it easier for somebody to come alongside you and say, okay, you're doing the right things, now's the time we're going to invest.
Okay. I like that. And that was a good you didn't know I was going to ask you that question. So that was a
No,
good answer. Um Going back to me, a New Year's resolution. I don't know how much you notice this. I think this is kind of, if you're kind of like a weird perfectionist in a way of just seeing things and kind of critiquing it. But if you ever watch like ads or the live films or really just any of the different marketing things that they put out, like cinematic wise, they always use a driver sound for an iron, and that's an easy fix. They can get rid of that in 2025. That's the one thing that irritates me the most. Also, let's be better about the editing of what they do, and let's get more mics everywhere else. So they do a really good job of, having players mic'd up for rounds. They have mics on the course. You can hear it through the broadcast, but during any shot, anytime, during more of the broadcast, or maybe having multiple during a certain thing, specific team streams. I don't care. Let's get more mics out there and let's hear more conversation. Let's hear more of what's going on. I think that we had such a good taste of it last year that it's something that we can improve on and do more of and make it as good as possible and have the access kind of be never ending, because they really opened it up for everyone. So let's make it better than it was before so that, we're improving on the previous year's success.
I think it's there. It's got to be there. They've got cameras all over the course. Any shot, anytime requires multiple cameras per hole. The technology is all in place and stationed. Just give us more of that audio.
Yes. Yeah, more of it. Like it was a good year in 2024. The New Year's resolution is to improve it. I think they got to do more of that.
My second live New Year's resolution would be to close loopholes. And there's probably more than one aspect, but just as a umbrella here, things like relegation means relegation. Like one of those things with closing loopholes is that we're not going to change or introduce a new rule partway through the year. We're not going to Bubba Watson it and say, oh, psych, captains, actually you can get relegated, but then there's a way out of relegation. Like close those loopholes, be very upfront at the beginning of the year. Here's what relegation means. If you're in the relegation zone, you are relegated. There's no business case to bring you back. There's no, hey, I'm good friends, or hey, it makes financial sense. Like play better, like close that loophole. Then the other one is close the loophole of either say that the international series is the pathway to live and honor that somebody is going to go through that pathway and make it to live, or change that little phrase that you have calling it the pathway to live. I get what happened with Peter Uihlein was well within the established rules. Let's change that rule, or let's stop calling it pathway to live.
Well, I'm cool. I agree with relegation. I agree with the business case. I'm cool with closing those loopholes. But was there ever even a loophole with the international series?
Well, I think it
I
just
feel,
wasn't clear, right? All year
yeah,
long.
the winner of the international series gets a guaranteed contract on Live.
Yeah, and about halfway through the year, we understood. I think maybe Jerry Foltz said, like, well, actually, if a current Live player wins, it doesn't go to the second place guy who's not currently on Live. Like that became clear, but it wasn't like from the get go, this is a pathway to Live unless somebody else
Yeah.
wins. So tell us what it is. Is it a pathway to live if you happen to have a non-live player win, or is it a guaranteed pathway to live for somebody that's not already there?
Well, it's just a guaranteed pathway if you're not in the lock zone,
Yeah.
right?
But then
So other than 24 people, that's the pathway in. Like you're back no matter what, or you're in no matter what.
to our knowledge, it sounds like some contracts are being written where guys are required or encouraged to play international series events. Not saying like you must show up
Yeah.
for 5, but we would like you to go there. So we know that live guys are going to continue playing the international series events, which is great. That's part of growing the game. It's part of taking high level professional golf to places that live isn't in right now. But knowing that every single field is going to have high level live players in it, does it discourage some guys from not from entering, but knowing that the pathway to live isn't easy, isn't clear, isn't attainable? Like, hey, you have to beat a seasoned pro who's played 17 majors through international series to get to live. Like, let's just say the highest finishing non-live player earns a spot.
I think it's hard enough to get there, and like guys are gonna like Asian tour guys are still gonna play. Those purses mean something, and they're professionals. They play the game for money. Unlike the legacy people think that they do, they play for money. So I don't think that'll deter anyone. I don't think Ben Campbell is like kicking the dirt or like ruse the day that he didn't win the international series because Joaquin Neiman took his spot by only playing 2 events. I don't know if that's the case. So I think that's still the most clear pathway to live outside of the promotions event. So I don't agree with that
I think
personally.
you and I did agree that the point system should not be so heavily weighted
Yeah,
toward.
I agree with that. If they
Yeah,
change it, I'm cool. But
yeah,
as it currently is structured, I
yeah.
don't agree with the verbiage of that being a loophole in the New Year's resolution.
All right, I think we better move on here. We want to make some bold predictions for 2025. So going from New Year's resolutions, things that the league should do or we'd like to see them do, to a couple of things each of us that we think or are predicting will happen in the league this year. I'll start. My number one bold prediction, and people will say it's not bold, but uh, Bryson is back. Everything is in place for Bryson after a 2024 with uh, no wins on live, many tournaments where Bryson wasn't really a factor on live, no podium appearances. I'm saying Bryson gets a win on live this year, has a handful of podium appearances. I just think everything in Bryson's life is settling into place. Got the Reebok deal. The Crushers are going to be wearing Reebok. I think this is the year Bryson's back, and I'm not going to talk about majors and that kind of stuff with Bryson, but I think he's got 1 and potentially 2 live wins in him this year.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know. Like last year was so predicated on majors. It was the last year of his exemptions. He really needed to get it done, and he did. But now that he's got those exemptions back, I don't know how much I like all of the course fits in the majors for him this year. And he's certainly not going to do well in the Open. He never does. I don't know how much I like him at Quail. And we'll see about Masters and a U.S. Open, but I like that. I mean, the more the focus will be on live this year for him. I think it should be just based with his new deal with Reebok and kind of just building the brand even more. So I'm all about that. My first one is I think the High Flyers are going to get a team win this year, and as an organization, they've been pretty poor. Just play and kind of off the course too. I don't know if they're the greatest when it comes to that. They do a lot of charitable work, which is awesome. But in terms of marketing themselves, I feel like they're the most poorly marketed team. But now, if Ogletree's healthy and plays to his 2023 standing, if Phil is back to a better version of Phil than he has been on live. I know you mentioned that's his main goal this year in the Wesley Bryan video. if those two can play well, and Brendan Steele plays serviceable golf like he always has, if they keep Tringali or they get someone new, but Tringali's been close to lock zone player. So if they get someone akin to that, then I think the High Flyers get a team win at some place this year. I think they only had 2 podiums last year. So it's bold.
I'm just
But
looking
it
at
could
that
happen.
because I was curious and I didn't look it up prior to us coming on. So looks like 1 podium last year.
Where was that?
That was in Adelaide.
Oh, they didn't podium it in JCB? I knew Adelaide was, or I thought Adelaide was one of them, but I thought they podiumed there too.
No, JCB, they had a late falling off.
Oh, yeah.
T7. I don't know. That's a bold prediction. I don't know if I agree with you. I know
We're here to
Phil
be
can
bold.
say, "Hey, I'm honing it in this year," but Father Time is undefeated, and did Phil not hone it in years before? Like, he didn't go into detail about like what is he doing different. Like, is he revamping his workout plan? Is he?
Well, I mean, Phil's been the guy that, like, I know he really likes Liv, but I think he's more about the disruption of the sport than the league itself, especially more than the league itself podcast. But, I think if there's more of an effort in Liv as a whole in getting his play up to speed, I think sky's the limit instead of just prepping him for the majors.
Let's say Phil is back and Phil is contending in live events and maybe a major. I still think the rest of his team, like, I hope a healthy Andy Ogletree is much better than he has been. I know that was a nagging injury that he said kind of plagued him throughout the year, but you're still talking about so many stars aligning for them to get a win, and the league just gets better and better, and it's hard to say.
The Cleeks won an event last year.
Yeah,
I
the
mean, like
stars
that team.
and the stars aligned.
Yeah.
So
So like, it's just going to take one weekend, and like the
yeah,
Cleeks weren't that good. I don't think. It just takes one good weekend.
yeah. My other bold prediction is the Four Aces return to relevance, and I think the key for that is the Thomas Peters signing. That will invigorate Thomas Peters to be the player I think he can be. We're going to see him on a couple of DP Tour events early here, and I think that'll be a good indication of where his season is going. But I also think Thomas Peters makes HV3 play better. Just they have some chemistry. They know each other. They have the WOMP app. I think there's a do or die in HV3 now. Last year was kind of a scare on the relegation side of things, even though I think he had another year on his contract.
He was contracted, yeah.
Would have been somewhere. Would have been easy to get rid of him if you were Dustin Johnson, though. But I think that, along with Patrick Reed probably breaking through and winning his first live tournament, I think the Four Aces will finish in the top 3 at the end of the year.
Okay. All right. Top 3. I think top 3 is very doable. Because now, I mean, if Harold Varner plays, like Harold Varner normally has in the past, I mean, there's no clear number 4 on that team. So,
right.
Yeah, I think top 3 is very doable if they all keep it together. But I could see Varner and Peters both falling out. That's a very volatile team, even though I am more bullish than bearish personally. But my last one, these are bold. Remember, I think John Rahm smokes everyone. I think this is the year of John Rahm. And when I say smokes everyone, I'm not saying he's going to win the individual championship, but I have him winning it by a record margin. DJ won it by 56 points in 8 events in 2022. I think Rahm beats that, which is obviously bold because the field's so much better than it was in 2022. But I think Rahm's very much in line to win 4 events. He's obviously going to play just the way he ended the year. And it'll be really telling to see what he does at in Dubai in a couple weeks, just to see where his game's at. But I feel really good about him winning 3 times at least and kind of just smoking everyone along the way.
I'm going to throw a question at you here that we hadn't planned. Make a bold prediction on a player that finished high that's going to have a drop-off season.
Louis Oosthuizen.
Okay, finished 6th last year. How far does Louis fall?
To the open zone.
Okay. That's a bold prediction. I like it. That's what we're here for.
That's good. You gotta. That was good throwing me off there. I appreciate that.
Make you think a little bit.
Yeah, and I stepped right. I stepped right up to the plate there too. Knocked it out of the
Yeah,
park.
you didn't even think twice.
Didn't even think
I'm
twice.
impressed.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we're the League Itself podcast. You know, I'm always about this.
Curveballs. We need a few more now and then.
Yeah. Well, next time I got to get a curveball in there for you, and then you're probably just gonna strike out like you normally do.
Yes. Anything else? Bold predictions.
We did have You've Been Jang in the lock zone in the notes.
Yeah, that's mine. I think he's ready. I think as many as the new players that have come into Live over the last, let's say, 2 seasons, he's more ready to play in this type of field than those other guys have been. Samoya, Genichiro, the Vincent brothers, I guess.
Kieran Vincent.
Kieran getting through the promotions event. Yuma Jang is going to be far ahead of those guys after 1 year than what we saw from those guys joining the league. That's my thought.
I don't see it happening, but it's bold predictions. It could totally happen.
We'll leave these in our notes, and about 8 months from now, we'll come back to them and laugh at what we said.
Yeah, well, in the notes that we take, you don't do a good job of keeping your previous notes. I have all of my old notes.
I saw that, and so I'll start doing that because it would be good to refer back to some things.
Yeah. Well, that's just podcasting 101.
Hey, that's why we're both here.
Anything else? I know Live Riyadh's in 4 weeks. Exciting.
We're 1 month out. Yep.
So there's other events that have Live guys coming up.
And if you follow me on X, I try and do a really good job of keeping people up to date on Live guys playing elsewhere. It's one thing I'm kind of passionate about, is following the Live guys as they play on other tours, whether that's Asian Tour, International Series, DP World Tour, Sunshine Tour. So some of those South Africa guys get there. So if you're following me on X, you'll see stuff from me on where other guys are playing.
Yeah. Now you do a good job of that, as well as the different articles that come out regarding different Live things. So, but other than that, I mean, we wanted to keep this one short. We almost went 30 minutes. So not as short as we'd like, but that's okay. That's just buddies being buddies, talking Live golf, that's what it's all about. But we'll be back next week at some point. Once the season starts, we're going to be really consistent with the schedule, whenever that may be. We still need to figure that out. But once again, we appreciate everyone listening on X as well as Spotify. You can get over there and rate us, like I mentioned earlier. That would be greatly appreciated. Until then, we will talk to you guys soon, and have a great weekend.
We'll see you.